Good evening. On Monday night, it's November 23rd. It's Thanksgiving week. We always look forward to Thanksgiving. We always look forward to playing our song that we do around this time of year. We're doing it on Facebook Live this year. And let's give it another minute or so, make sure people are getting in their place. We don't want people to miss too much of this. Our annual performance of Alice's Restaurant. Sometimes people request it during the year. I don't know, it's funny how this song has become, over the years, synonymous with Thanksgiving. Just because it took place on Thanksgiving. Well, when Arlo and his buddy got arrested in 1965 on Thanksgiving Day up in Massachusetts for littering. It's a true story. So if you've been following along the last couple weeks or so, and all the Alice's Restaurant, the fun facts, it's all true. Arlo was 18 years old when he got arrested for littering, and Alice still is in the Massachusetts area. I guess Provincetown. I guess that's near Cape Cod, Provincetown, where she has an art gallery now, and a little local legend up there, and the old church where Alice and her husband Ray used to live. Arlo actually bought the church, and I guess they preserve it. It's called the Guthrie Center now. I think they do have concerts there when they were having concerts, and they also do some work helping people with different ailments and whatnot. And so when the actual event happened in 1965, Thanksgiving Day, then 2 years later, on November 22nd, 1967, 53 years ago, the album was released. Turned out to be a phenomenon. As Arlo said, if he had known that this was going to be such a huge success, he would have made the song shorter. And then 2 years later, 1969, the year I was brought into existence, the movie was made. Yep, a 2-hour movie out of an 18-minute song. So, an Officer Obie, the arresting officer, he passed away in 1994, and Officer William Obenheim, I think his last name was, Officer Obie, he was actually in the movie. He played himself in the movie. So I thought that was really, really cool. And one last story, and then, like I said, if anyone's tuning in, we're going to get ready to play the song. The story goes that Arlo tells in concert that he and Officer Obie, when they were filming the movie, they weren't really getting along. They were, cordial, but it was because Arlo was still that long-haired hippie, and Officer Obie was kind of like, long-haired hippies. But over the years, as the song, became what it is, this big thing, Arlo and Officer Obie, they became very good friends, and Arlo always made a point that it can happen. People with different views, different opinions, different philosophies, they made it work. They became really, really good friends. So that was a really nice story that Arlo would tell in concert. So, all right. So without further ado, I say let's get this thing going. All right. This song is called Alice's Restaurant. It's about Alice and the restaurant. But Alice's Restaurant was never the name of the restaurant. It was just the name of the song. That's why this song is called Alice's Restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant. Walk right in, it's around the back, just a half a mile from the railroad track. And you can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. Now it all started 55 Thanksgivings ago, 55 years ago on Thanksgiving, when a friend and I went up to visit Alice at the restaurant. But Alice doesn't live in the restaurant. She lives in the church nearby the restaurant in the bell tower with her husband Ray and Facha the dog. And living in the bell tower like that, they got a lot of room downstairs where the pews used to be in. And having all that room, seeing as how they took out all the pews, they decided that they didn't have to take out their garbage for a long time. So we got up there, found all the garbage. Then we decided it'd be a friendly gesture for us to take the garbage off to the town dump. So we took the half a ton of garbage, put it in the back of a red VW microbus, took shovels and rakes and implements of destruction, and headed on towards the town dump. Well, we got there, and there's a big sign and a chain across the road saying, "Closed on Thanksgiving." Well, we had never heard of a dump closed on Thanksgiving before. So with tears in our eyes, we drove off into the sunset looking for another place to put the garbage. We didn't find one, till we came to a side road, and off the side of the side road was another 15-foot cliff, and at the bottom of the cliff was another pile of garbage. So we decided that one big pile is better than two little piles, and rather than bring that one up, we decided to throw ours down. That's what we did. Drove back to the church, had a Thanksgiving dinner that couldn't be beat, went to sleep and didn't get up until the next morning when we got a phone call from Officer Obi. He said, "Kid, we found your name on an envelope at the bottom of a half a ton of garbage and just want to know if you had any information about it." I said, "Yes, sir, Officer Obi. I cannot tell a lie. I put that envelope under that garbage." Well, after speaking to him for about 45 minutes on the telephone, we finally arrived at the truth of the matter. He said we had to go down and pick up the garbage, and also had to go down and talk to him at the police officer station. So we got back in the red VW microbus with the shovels and rakes and implements of destruction and headed on towards the police officer station. Now, friends, there was only one or two things that Obi could have done to us at the police station. And the first thing was he could have given us a medal for being so brave and honest on the telephone, which wasn't very likely, and we didn't expect it. And the other thing was he could have bawled us out and told us never to be seen driving garbage around the vicinity again, which was what we expected. But when we got to the police officer station, there was a third possibility we hadn't even counted upon, and we was both immediately arrested. Handcuffed. And I said, "Obi, I can't pick up the garbage with these handcuffs on." He said, "Shut up, kid, and get in the back of the patrol car." That's what we did. Sat in the back of the patrol car and drove to the, quote, "scene of the crime," unquote. Now, I want to tell you about this town of Stockbridge, Massachusetts, where this is happening here. They got 3 stop signs, 2 police officers, and 1 police car. But when we got to the scene of the crime, there were 5 police officers and 3 police cars, being the biggest crime of the last 50 years, and everybody wanted to get in the newspaper story about it. And they was using up all kinds of cop equipment they had hanging around the police officer station. They took plaster track prints, footprints, dog-smelling prints. And they took 27 8x10 colored glossy photographs with circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one explaining what each one was to be used as evidence against us. Took pictures of the approach, the getaway, the northwest corner, southwest corner, and that's not to mention the aerial photography. After the ordeal, we went back to the jail. Obi said he's going to put us in the cell. Said, "Kid, I'm going to put you in the cell. I want your wallet and your belt." I said, "Obi, I can understand you wanting my wallet, so I don't have any money to spend in the cell, but what do you want my belt for?" He said, "Kid, we don't want any hangings." I said, "Obi, do you think I'm going to hang myself for littering?" Obi said he was making sure, and friends, Obi was, because he took out the toilet seat so I wouldn't hit myself over the head and drown. Then he took out the toilet paper so I wouldn't bend the bars and roll the toilet paper out the window, slide down the roll, and have an escape. Obi was making sure, and it was about 4 or 5 hours later when Alice, you remember Alice, this song's about Alice. Alice came by with a few nasty words to Obie on the side, bailed us out of jail, and we went back to the church, had another Thanksgiving dinner that couldn't be beat, and didn't get up until the next morning when we all had to go to court. We walked in and sat down. Obie walked in with the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and sat down. Man came in, said, "All rise," and we all stood up. Obie stood up with the 27 8x10 color glossy photographs, and the judge walked in and sat down with a seeing eye dog. And he sat down. We sat down. Obie looked at the seeing eye dog, and then at the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back, and then he looked at the seeing eye dog. And then the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back, and he began to cry. Because Obie came to the realization it was another typical case of American blind justice, and there was nothing he could do about it. Because the judge wasn't going to look at the 27 8x10 color glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back, each one explaining what each one was to be used as evidence against us. And we was fined $50 and had to go pick up the garbage in the snow. But that's not what I came here to tell you about. Came to talk about the draft. They got this building in New York City. It's on Whitehall Street. You walk in, you get injected, inspected, infected, detected, neglected, and selected. I went down there to get my physical examination there one day. Got good and drunk the night before, so I looked and felt my best when I went in there that morning. Because I wanted to feel like the all-American kid from New York City. Man, I wanted to feel like I wanted to be the all-American kid from New York City. I walked in, I was hung down, brung down, hung up, and all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly things. And I walked in, they handed me some paper. Said, "Kid, see the psychiatrist, room 604. Well, I walked in there, and I said, "Shrink, I want to kill. I want to kill. I want to see blood and gore and guts and veins in my teeth. Eat dead, burnt bodies. I mean, kill. 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 Kill." I started jumping up and down, yelling, "Kill, kill, kill." And the shrink was jumping up and down with me. We was both jumping up and down, yelling, "Kill, kill, kill." That's when the sergeant came over, opened the door, and said, "You're our boy." Didn't feel too good about it. I proceeded on down the hall, going through more injections, inspections, infections, detections, neglections, and all kinds of stuff they were doing to me at that thing. I was there for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. I was there for a long time, going through all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly things, and I was just having a tough time. And they was injecting, inspecting every single part of me, and they was leaving no parts untouched. Finally came down to the very last man. I walked in and sat down after going through a whole big thing there, and I said, "What you want?" And he said, "Kid, we have one question. Have you been arrested?" I proceeded to tell him the story of the Alice's restaurant. I proceeded to tell him the story of the 27 8x10 colored glossy pictures with the circles and arrows and a paragraph on the back of each one. And he stopped me right there and he said, "Kid, I want you to go and sit down on that bench that says Group W. Now, kid." I walked over to the bench there, and the Group W is where they put you if you may not be moral enough to join the army after committing your special crime. There was all kinds of mean, nasty, ugly looking people on the bench there. Mother rapers, father stabbers, father rapers sitting on the bench right next to me, and they were mean and nasty, ugly, horrible, crime-fighting guys that were sitting on the bench. And the meanest, nastiest, ugliest one, the meanest father raper of them all, he was sitting right next to me, and he was mean and nasty and horrible and all kinds of things. He looked at me and he said, "Kid, what'd you get?" I said, "I didn't get nothing. I had to pay $50 and pick up the garbage." He said, "What were you arrested for, kid?" I said, "Littering." Then they all moved away from me on the bench there, and that hairy oddball and all kinds of mean, nasty things, till I said, "And creating a nuisance." Then they all came back, shook my hand, and we had a great time sitting on the bench talking about crime, mother raping, father stabbing, and father raping, all kinds of groovy things. We were smoking cigarettes and everything was just fine. Till the sergeant came over, had some paper in his hand, held it up, and he said, "Kids, this piece of paper's got 47 words, 57 sentences, 58 words, one no detail, the crime, yes, they pertain to another crime, one know the arrest, and officer's name, and everything else pertaining to another crime." He talked for 45 minutes, and nobody understood a word he said, but we had fun filling out the forms and playing with the pencils on the bench there. I filled out the Alice's Restaurant Massacre with the 4-part harmony and full orchestration, and just as it happened there, I put down the pencil, I turned over the piece of paper, and there on the other side, in the middle of the other side, away from everything else on the other side, in capital letters, quotated, in parentheses, read the following words: "Kid, have you rehabilitated yourself?" I looked at the sergeant. I said, "Sarge, you got a lot of damn gall to ask me if I have rehabilitated myself. I'm sitting here on the bench. I'm sitting here on Group W bench. Because you want to know if I'm moral enough to join the army and burn kids, women's houses, and villages after being a litter bug." He said, "Kid, we don't like your kind. We're going to send your fingerprints off to Washington and friends. Somewhere in Washington, enshrined in some folder, is a study in black and white. Are those fingerprints? They are still there. And the only reason why we're still singing this song is you may know somebody in a similar situation. Or you might be in a similar situation, and if you're ever in a situation like that, there's only one thing you can do. All you got to do is walk into the shrink, wherever you are. Walk in and say, 'Shrink, you can get anything you want at Alice's Restaurant,' and walk out. Just one person singing Alice's Restaurant, and they'll think you're really sick, and they won't take you. And if 2 people do it in harmony, they'll think they're just trying to get married somewhere in Kentucky, or they won't even make a cake for you. If 3 people do it, can you imagine three people walking in, singing a bar, Alice's Restaurant, and walking out? They may think it's an organization. Maybe 50 people a day. Man, can you imagine 50 people a day walking in, singing a bar, Alice's Restaurant? They may think it's a movement. And that's what it is. The Alice's Restaurant Anti-Massacre Movement, and all you got to do to join is to sing it the next time it comes around on the guitar with feeling. So we'll just wait for it to come around on the guitar again and sing it when it does. Hope it lines up with the video. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. Walk right in, it's around the back, just a half a mile from the railroad track. And you can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. Well, I know I can't hear anybody singing. I just have to trust that you're singing. I've been singing this song for 25 minutes already. I could sing it for another 25 minutes. I'm not proud or tired. But you want to end war and stuff, you gotta sing loud. Turn up the volumes on your device, on your phone or your computer or whatever you're listening on. Open up the windows and all the doors. Sing it nice and loud. Invite the neighbors over. Well, wear your mask. And let's sing along. Hashtag at Alice's restaurant. You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. Accepting Alice, you can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. Walk right in, it's around the back, just a half a mile from the railroad track. And you can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da, Alice's restaurant. That's it, everybody. Thanks for listening. Have a happy Thanksgiving and be safe. We'll see you soon. Take care, everybody. Have a good night.